The champagne glass slipped from my fingers in slow motion. It shattered against the marble floor of the restaurant, exactly as my husband planned. But what he didn't know was that I had been counting down to this moment for 6 months, and I was about to destroy him. My name is Victoria Sterling. I'm 52 years old, and this is the story of how I turned my husband's betrayal into the sweetest revenge of my life. Let me take you back 3 hours. The Ocean View restaurant in Newport Beach buzzed with celebration. Crystal chandeliers, Pacific sunset views, 75 guests gathered to honor my daughter Sophia's MBA graduation from Stanford. 26 years of marriage. 1 daughter, 1 secret that was about to explode. Marcus Sterling stood at the head table, looking remarkably calm for a man about to commit social suicide. Tall, silver-haired, 54, still handsome in that aging athlete way. He raised his glass. "I want to thank you all for coming today," he began, his voice steady. Our friends smiled, expecting a proud father speech. "We're here to celebrate Sophia's incredible achievement." I watched him from my seat, my heart rate perfectly normal. I'd rehearsed this moment 100 times in my mind. But I also need to share something personal. His eyes found mine across the table. "I've decided it's time for me to live authentically. Victoria and I have grown apart. I'm in love with someone else. I want a divorce." Gasps rippled through the room. Forks clattered against plates. Sophia's face went white. My mother-in-law clutched her chest. Perfect chaos, exactly as he'd planned it. Public announcements are harder to fight, harder to spin. He'd force my hand, make me look hysterical if I reacted. But I didn't react. I smiled. Then I reached into my Chanel bag and pulled out a cream envelope. Heavy stock paper, my initials embossed in gold. I'd had them custom-made just for this occasion. I walked around the table, my Louboutins clicking against the hardwood, and placed the envelope in front of Marcus. "Congratulations on your honesty, darling," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think you'll find everything you need in there." His confident expression flickered. Just for a second. But I saw it. I kissed Sophia's cheek. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. This is still your day." Then I addressed our stunned guests. "Please enjoy your dinner. The lobster here is exceptional." I walked out without looking back. 75 pairs of eyes followed me. The heavy oak door closed behind me, cutting off the eruption of voices. Outside, the California ocean breeze hit my face. I inhaled deeply. For the first time in 6 months, I felt free. Behind me, the door burst open. Marcus's voice, no longer composed, rang out. "Victoria, what the hell did you just give me?" I kept walking toward my car. "What have you done?" "Everything, Marcus. I've done everything." The envelope contained 3 documents. First, divorce papers filed that morning, time-stamped 2 hours before his announcement. Second, a financial disclosure showing I'd traced every dollar he'd hidden in offshore accounts. Third, and most devastating, a copy of our prenuptial agreement with Section 29 highlighted in yellow. The infidelity clause. The clause Marcus himself had insisted on 26 years ago when he married me, the daughter of tech mogul Richard Chen. He'd wanted to protect his future earnings from my family money. Ironic, considering he'd spent the last decade living off my trust fund while his boutique investment firm bled money. Section 29 was crystal clear. In the event of proven infidelity, the unfaithful party forfeits all claims to shared assets, retains only premarital property, and pays punitive damages equal to 40% of the marital estate. Marcus was about to lose everything. The Newport house, the Aspen condo, the boat, the cars, and most painfully, his reputation. 6 months earlier, I'd noticed something odd. $15,000 transfer from our joint account labeled property management fee. We didn't own rental properties. Most wives might have confronted their husbands immediately, but I'd spent 23 years as a senior analyst at Chen Technologies, my father's company. I knew how to investigate. I started with the simple stuff, credit card statements. His phone bill showed repeated calls to the same number. A reverse lookup revealed it belonged to Amber Martinez, 36, his executive assistant. How original. Then I went deeper. I hired a forensic accountant, Michael Chen, my cousin who specialized in discovering hidden assets during divorces. What he found made my blood run cold. For 18 months, Marcus had been systematically moving money, not just thousands, hundreds of thousands. He'd opened accounts in the Cayman Islands, purchased property in Scottsdale under an LLC, even bought a $200,000 engagement ring that definitely wasn't for me. He'd been planning his exit for over a year, and he'd been stupid enough to use our joint accounts to fund it. The text messages I discovered when his phone died during dinner one night sealed it. He'd left it on the charger in the kitchen, unlocked. Modern phones show message previews. Can't wait to start our life together after the MBA graduation. Finally free. Another one. She has no idea. Victoria's so focused on Sophia she doesn't see what's right in front of her. He'd planned the graduation announcement down to the minute. Maximum humiliation. Maximum witnesses. Make it impossible for me to fight back without looking unhinged. What Marcus forgot, or perhaps never knew, was that I had inherited my father's strategic mind. Dad had built a tech empire by thinking 12 moves ahead. He'd taught me everything, so I played the devoted wife. I smiled at dinners. I asked about Marcus's day. I pretended not to notice when he came home late smelling of Amber's perfume. And I planned. The morning after the restaurant incident, my phone erupted with calls. Friends, family, reporters who'd somehow gotten the story. I ignored them all except one. "Mom?" Sophia's voice was thick with tears. "Where are you?" "I'm at Aunt Linda's house," I said. My sister, Linda Chen Rodriguez, had flown in from San Francisco the night before. "Come here. We need to talk." When Sophia arrived, she fell into my arms like she used to after childhood nightmares. But she wasn't a child anymore. She was 24, brilliant, and furious. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded. "Because your MBA was too important," I explained. "You worked so hard. I wasn't going to let his midlife crisis ruin that." Linda brought us tea in her sunlit kitchen. My sister had always been my rock. When I showed her the evidence months ago, she'd wanted to castrate Marcus with a rusty spoon. I'd convinced her to wait. "So what was in the envelope?" Sophia asked. I told her everything. The divorce filing, the financial investigation, the prenup. Her eyes widened as the full picture emerged. "Dad's going to lose the house. The house, the investments, his reputation," I confirmed. "The prenup he created to protect himself is going to destroy him." "Good," Sophia said fiercely. "He deserves it. Do you know he texted me this morning, said you were being vindictive, that you'd stolen his money?" I couldn't help but laugh. "His money? I've been supporting his failing business for 8 years. My phone buzzed. Marcus's attorney, probably. I let it go to voicemail. What Marcus didn't know yet was that I'd also contacted every single client of Sterling Investments. Professionally, of course. Just checking in, making sure they were satisfied with their portfolio management. Asking careful questions about whether they'd noticed any irregularities. 3 of his top clients called me back within hours. They had noticed irregularities. They were planning to request audits. Marcus's house of cards was collapsing, and he still thought he could win. The preliminary hearing happened on a Tuesday morning in Orange County Superior Court. I arrived with my attorney, Patricia Wong, a shark in Armani who'd handled my father's business litigation for decades. Marcus sat across the aisle with his lawyer, a young guy named Brad, who looked fresh out of law school. Marcus's go-to attorney had dropped him when the retainer check bounced. That should have been his first warning. Judge Margaret Thornton, 63, no nonsense, reviewed the prenuptial agreement with the intensity of someone who'd seen every trick in the book. "This document appears to be in order," she said, peering over her reading glasses at Brad. "Do you contest its validity?" Brad cleared his throat. "Your Honor, we believe the clause is unconscionable given the length of the marriage." "Unconscionable?" Judge Thornton raised an eyebrow. "Did Mr. Sterling have legal representation when he signed this agreement?" "Yes, but..." "Did he sign it under duress?" "No, but..." then I see no basis for your claim. She turned to the financial documents. Furthermore, evidence shows Mr. Sterling transferred $847,000 from joint accounts without Mrs. Sterling's knowledge or consent. This violates California community property law and the explicit terms of the prenuptial agreement. Marcus's face turned the color of raw beef. I'm issuing a temporary freeze on all accounts pending full discovery, Judge Thornton continued. Mr. Sterling will retain access to his premarital accounts and current earnings. The family home, vehicles, and investment properties will remain under Mrs. Sterling's control as per the infidelity clause. We'll reconvene in 30 days. As we left the courtroom, Marcus grabbed my arm in the hallway. Vicky, please, we can work this out. 26 years has to mean something. I pulled my arm free. It meant everything, until you decided it meant nothing. I made a mistake, he said, and for the first time I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Amber and I, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Marcus. You planned this for 18 months. You moved our money. You bought her a ring that cost more than Sophia's entire college tuition. Don't insult me with lies now. The business is failing, he admitted, his voice breaking. I have nothing without you. You should have thought of that before. Patricia pulled me aside as Marcus stood alone in the corridor. The Cayman accounts, she said quietly. My team traced them. He invested most of it in a cryptocurrency scheme. The company collapsed last month. The money's gone. I stared at her. How much? $680,000. Just gone. Marcus hadn't just betrayed me. He'd been spectacularly incompetent about it. The offshore accounts he'd hidden so carefully held virtually nothing. The Scottsdale property was underwater on its mortgage. Even the ring he'd bought Amber was financed at 18% interest. My husband had destroyed our marriage and bankrupted himself in the process. 3 weeks after the hearing, Linda called with interesting news. Amber Martinez just posted on Instagram. She's engaged to a cardiologist from Santa Barbara. The timeline suggests she was dating him the entire time she was with Marcus. I couldn't help it. I laughed. So Marcus blew up his life for a woman who was using him? Karma's a bitch, Linda said cheerfully. Marcus had been calling me daily, increasingly desperate. The financial freeze meant he couldn't access our investments. His business clients were fleeing after the audit revelations. Amber had ghosted him completely. He'd moved into a studio apartment in Costa Mesa, a far cry from our 6-bedroom estate. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Using my personal accounts, the ones Marcus never controlled, I'd launched Sterling Chen Consulting. My father's connections and my 2 decades of tech industry experience meant clients appeared instantly. I specialized in helping women executives manage their wealth, particularly during major life transitions. My first client was my own daughter. I taught Sophia everything about protecting herself financially. She'd never make my mistakes. The second client was Marcus's sister, Rachel, who was also going through a divorce. She'd called me, apologetic but desperate. I know it's awkward, but you're the only person I trust with this. I helped her hide assets legally before her husband could find them. Word spread. Within a month, I had 12 clients. Within 2, I had 25. I also did something I'd never done before. I started dating. His name was James Park, 55, a literature professor at UC Irvine. We met at a charity fundraiser Linda dragged me to. He was Korean-American, divorced, father of 2 grown sons, and he made me laugh in a way I'd forgotten was possible. Your ex-husband sounds like a real piece of work, James said over our 3rd dinner. He was a lot of things, I replied, but he taught me something valuable. What's that? Never trust someone more than you trust yourself. James smiled. Sounds like you learned the right lesson. The final divorce hearing fell on what would have been our 27th anniversary. Poetic justice. Judge Thornton upheld the prenuptial agreement in its entirety. Marcus left with his premarital assets, his failing business, and approximately $83,000 in liquid cash. I retained the house, 75% of our investments, my trust fund, and full ownership of my new company. The property Marcus had purchased in Scottsdale? Foreclosed. The boat? Repossessed. The luxury car he'd leased for Amber? Returned. As we left the courthouse for the final time, Marcus approached me one last time. He looked 10 years older than he had 6 months ago. "I hope you're happy, Victoria," he said bitterly. "I am," I replied truthfully. "For the first time in years, I actually am." "Was it worth it? Destroying me?" I considered the question. "Marcus, you destroyed yourself. I just refused to go down with you." He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. There was nothing left to say. 6 months later, Sterling Chen Consulting occupied an entire floor in a downtown Newport Beach building. I had 43 clients, 3 employees, and a waiting list. Sophia worked with me part-time while building her own marketing firm. We were a team in ways Marcus never understood. James and I were taking things slowly, carefully. He understood that I needed time to rebuild trust. He didn't push. He just showed up, consistently, honestly, proving through actions that not all men were like Marcus. One evening, Sophia and I sat on the deck of the Newport house, watching the sun set over the Pacific. She sipped wine. I had tea. "Do you ever miss him?" she asked. "I miss who I thought he was," I admitted, "but that person never really existed." "Do you regret the prenup, making it so ironclad?" I smiled. "That prenup is the best thing Marcus ever gave me. He was so worried about protecting his future earnings from my family money that he never imagined he'd be the one to trigger the infidelity clause. The trap he set for you caught him instead." "Exactly." The envelope I'd placed in front of Marcus at that restaurant had contained more than just divorce papers. It had contained my escape route, my revenge, and my reinvention. Marcus had thought he was starting a new life. Instead, he'd given me mine back.